Hey guys, welcome back to Lightning Component Development Session Day 14. This is Amit, and today we will learn what is the difference between force colon create record and lightning colon record form. And then we will build a lightning component that will be named as create contact component. And in this component we will having four or five input fields that are first contact, first name, last name, email, phone, and then title. After creating the component, we will create another component that will be name it as contact review. What this contact review component will do, it will hold all the components that contact information that we will be providing from the create contact component. And then in the create contact component we will add a new button that will be named as add to review. And when we will be click on this add to review button, we are going to send that contact information to this component, and this component will be responsible for displaying the contact information for all the contacts that we are adding. And then we are going to create a new component that will be create contacts, that will be the parent of both of these components, create contact component and then contact review. And on that component we will be create on this create contact component, sorry, on this contact review component we will be creating a new button that will be save contacts. And when we will be creating this save contact, this is going to call a new apex class that will be responsible for saving or inserting all the contact into the database. And then after, these are the points that we are going to work for our live work for our application beer explorer. So we will be creating a cart info component, and then we'll be add this to the main application so that we can implement the add to cart button functionality for each and every beer cart detail page that we are displaying as earlier. And then we are going to implement quantity deduction for the ordered beer. As of now, what we are doing, we are just ordering the beer when we are clicking on the place order button. We are not making any deduction on the related beer that is being ordered. So we will implement that information, that logic today. And then we will add to cart button on the beer list component, so that each and every component we can click on add to cart button for if you wanted to order the multiple beers. And then we'll create cart detail component that will be responsible for having this cart item component, and cart item component will be responsible for displaying all the beers that has been added to the cart information. And then these are the points that we are going to implement in our next upcoming session, and we'll also do some implementation today by itself. So let's go ahead and start implementing this create contact component. So go to the developer console, new lightning component, and you will see that create contact component, as we are going to use on the record page. So we are going to select this so that we can get auto implemented the interface, that is flexi colon available for record home page and then record ID. Now what we are going to do, we are going to add these 5 fields for creating a form. So let's go ahead, implement it as a division, and then here in the division we are going to use grid for taking the inputs. So let's go ahead, open the SLDS, and here in SLDS we will be finding the grid, and then we'll use two column grid for taking the input from the users. So we are going to use this one, and inside here we will use 1 of 2 and then 1 of 2. First of all, as we are going to take the input for the contact, we are going to create an attribute that will be named as contact record, and type will be contact, and we can default So it will be as object type as a contact, and then we will provide first name as null, then last name as blank value, email as blank value, title also as blank value, and then we have a new that is a field called as phone, that will also blank. Okay, so we didn't close this attribute. Now here on the spans, here we are going to use lightning input, lightning corner input, label as first name, and then value as V as an value provider, and then the name of the attribute, that is contact record, and then the field name, that is the API name of field, that is first name, and then required as a true, and also another attribute, that is aura ID, new contact. Now let's copy this, paste here. It will be last name, and here it will also be last name. So now let's go ahead, copy this and make it as an email, title here and here as well, and then one other, that is for the phone. So just remove this, and here we will name it as a phone, and here as well as. Now let's go ahead to the account detail page. So from here we'll find, let's go back to the sales application, open account tab, and here we are going to remove this component and we will add that new one. Click on edit, remove this, and here we will add create contact component. Click on save and back. So now you can see that we are able to type the information here. Now before we go, as we have implemented this, we have added the components, the fields that we wanted to have. Before we go ahead to implement the other functionality, I missed one point, that is difference between force colon create record and lightning record form. The only difference between these two is that in case of lightning record form we cannot default the value, but in case of force colon record form we can default the value that we already saw on earlier session, how we can use default field values to set the values by default whenever we are clicking on the create component. So this is the only basic difference between these two. So now let's go ahead. Here we are going to use padding for around, so that we can have few space from all around, from the around way. Go to select the around, copy this small class and then put here on the division tag. Now what we will do, we will add a button here on the next column, and that will name as add to review, lightning colon button, add to review, add to review, and variant equal to brand, and then on click we are going to call a method that is c dot handle review. Now let's go ahead and add this method in the controller. So before we add this component to the review, before we think of the logic, what logic we need to put here, we are going to put one method in the helper that is going to use for the validate fields, so that we can validate the fields. If fields are validated, that means if the fields are required in a proper format or not. So here what we are going to do, we are going to use is valid, and then component dot find dot reduce. It requires a function that is valid fields and input component. Comma true. So here what we are going to do, as we know that inside component.find we need to provide the OR ID that we already provided as a new contact, and here what we'll do that show help message if invalid. To get if this message is correct or not, go to the component library and find input, lightning input, then go to the specification tab, scroll down to the bottom. Here you will get the method name, and then here we will return is valid. Let me find this from the quick contact. Yep, here we must have inside the component. Yep, we have this, so let's copy this from the component to this helper. Okay, so what we are doing, we are just returning whatever the value we are getting from here, this method. Now what we'll do, we'll call this method from the controller, and we'll store inside a variable that will be named as is valid helper dot validate fields, and then inside here now we will check if this boolean variable is written as true, that means all fields are valid. Otherwise we are going to show the alert that please fill all required fields. Okay, now here then we are going to do the all logic. So first let's check that until here we are on the right track. Click on add to review button. Okay, input component is not defined. Why? In the helper okay, now it should work. Click on this. Well, let's say for is not defined. Okay, so here instead of valid so far we are going to use valid fields that we used. Now if you will see, click on add to review button, you can see that we are able to get the required alerts, and we are also highlighting all the fields as well. Next thing is, before we create before we put the logic inside this handle review method, we are going to create a new component that will name as context review. So we will name it as contact review, and as we are going to use this contact review component inside another parent component, we are not going to do anything. So here what we are doing, inside this contact review we are just going to display the contacts, the list of contacts. So for displaying the list of contacts we need attribute that will be a type of list or type of list of component. So we will name it at contact records. We will be type as object, and then here inside division tag we are going to use colon iteration. Here in the items we always use the list of records, that means this, for where we are going to use contact, and then we are going to display the information in a grid. So let's go back to the create contact component, find this grid here, copy and paste. Instead of gutters, click on wrap, change it to wrap so that we can wrap up the things. No, so here not one of three, we are going to display first name, last name, email and phone. We are not going to display the title here, so we are going to make it as one of four so that we can display 4 information over here. So as of now we are just going to use contact first name, last name, email, title, and then one button that we are going to add is add next to every contact. So let's make it 1 of 5, or let's make it 1 of 4, and then here we are going to add a new button that will be, let's say that anchor tag href link. On the href we are not going to redirect anything, so let's put word 0 so that it doesn't return anything, and then on click we are going to call a method that will be c dot remove record, and then the value for this will be remove. So now what we'll do, we will use this component inside a new component that we are going to create, that will be the parent component, that we will say that create contacts. So let's go ahead, create a new component that we will name it as create contacts, and then this contacts will be used inside the contact detail page, account detail page. Then we are going to use here. Now let's use C colon create contact component, and then other component, that is C colon contact review. Let's go back to the account detail page, edit this, remove this component, and add the new component that we created, create contacts, so that we can see all the information over there. So let's go ahead, this find, oops, create contacts, we are not able to, okay, contacts, it misspelled, so no issue. We are going to use contacts, save this. So here we are still able to see that component 5, we are using this component inside here. So now what we'll do, whenever a user click on add to review button, we are checking the validation. If all the records are valid, we are going to call a component event so that we can send the contact information here to the parent component, and then from parent component we are going to send that information to the child component, and inside child component we are already displaying those details. So let's go ahead and create a new component event that is known as create contact events. Sorry, it's component event, not component. Create contacts. So as this is the lightning component event, we need to register and handle the component as well. Inside this component we are going to create a new attribute that will holding the information of contact. So name it as con record. Type will be of contact, and now here on the create contact controller, let's go ahead and register this component event. So aura colon register event, we are going to name it as the same, and then its type it's C, there's a namespace and the name of event, that's it. And here on the contact that is the parent component, we need to handle this, so let's put the handler as well. Name equal to whatever the name we put there, then event C colon name of the event, and then what action we need to call whenever we are handling this event. So let's put C that do handle event, save it, create a method and get the contact record here. That we will name it that event dot get param, and then inside this we are going to use the parameters that we have created inside the event. So let's go with this and then console.log. And now in the contact component, if everything is valid, we are going to fire the event from the component. So let's get that component, get event, and here we are going to use the name of the event that we register here, and then using the method as a set params. And then we need to fire the event. So here in the component, whatever the name is, and then we are going to get the complete contact, as we are binding the contact input fields with the help of attribute. As we know that if you are using the value with the attribute, the value whatever we are putting here, it automatically stores in the attribute. So we are going to use that attribute here, and then the name of the attribute. Now let's see, we can just put an alert here, event handle. Now let's go back, refresh the page. put anything for the first name, for the email you can put anything as of now. Click on add to review, we can see why. Okay, okay, let's add to review. We are also getting why we are getting this error. Okay, so we are not able to bypass this condition, so we are entering on the else condition. Let's go back to our helper method. Okay, so here what we are doing, we are missing the return statement, so put the return. Now go back to the contact, refresh this page and see if you are able to get, let's say that anything. Now click on add to review. Yep, now we are getting the event handled alert that we put on this parent component, and that is contacts. Okay, so what we need to do now, as in the helper, in the controller of the parent component we are getting the contact record, and now we will use a attribute here which will store the list of contacts, so that because we may click on this button many times, so what we'll do, we will create, like, we will name it as contact list and type will be of list of contact, or we can just say that object, and then in this list we will be pushing those records. What we'll do, we'll create con list variable here, and in con list, okay, I think we don't need this one. We just first we will get the whatever the values we have on our component attribute. So when we will access for the first time, we don't have any values, so what we'll do, we'll just check if this contact list variable has any value. If has, then on this push this contact record, otherwise okay, I don't think. Yep, let's put the alert here and check if you are what we are able to do. And now then component dot set v dot this contact list, and in this list set this variable, and now here in the component we can just display the length of the attribute, so that we can see if we are able to successfully set the record or not. So let's go here, put the things as of now as it is. Okay, so we are not able to get here, so what we will do, we will create a variable here, so that contact list equal to this, and then contact list that push. Now we will do this. So what we are doing here on the else condition, we are instantiating, we are creating a type of list, and then on this list we are pushing the record, and then we are setting that record over here. So now let's go back and click on this. Now see if you are able to, yep, test is coming, and now we are also able to see the length as a 2, length as 1. Now if you click 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever, how many numbers of time I am clicking on this. So let's remove this alert. Now here if you go back to the contact review, you can see that we are using attribute that is contacts, and here in this contacts we are using that component. We can just pass the values here. What value we need to pass? We need to pass whatever the list we are getting from the component. So now let's go ahead, click on refresh. Now we will refresh the page, we'll input some information, and we will see if we are able to okay. So you can see that we are able to see the information over here, that is first name, last name, phone, sorry, email and title. Yep. So instead of email and title, what will show, okay, now if you click on attribute, you can see the number of rows are increasing, whatever the number of counts are here. So okay, here we need to show the phone and then this remove button. Okay, so now what we need to do, we just will go to the parent component, remove this. First thing that we need to do, we need to implement this remove functionality. So here in the ID we will be sending this index variable so that we can identify the unique index, how many number of records we have already added here. We will get the index. So here on this method, let's go ahead, create the method remove, and first we will get the index, and that will be event.currentTarget. When we will use event.currentTarget, and then it will refer to the refer to the reference link, the anchor tag that we are using here, and then we can access this href id on click attribute. So we are going to use id because we just wanted to know whatever the index has been clicked on the button, and then we can just get component.get here v dot this record this attribute, and we will store here the existing records, and then we'll use splice method to remove the clicked index, whatever the index we are clicking will get. We will use splice method to remove this particular row. Suppose that I am clicking on this row, I will be able to remove this row. So splice method takes two parameters. One is whatever the index we wanted to remove, and the other one is 0 or 1. 1 means need to remove, and then in this attribute we just set this existing record using the component.set method, so that we can refresh, we can get the refresh data. So now let's go ahead, refresh the page, and we will add 2-3 contacts, and then we will try to remove one of them. So first I will try missing. Okay, now if we click on auto review, you can see I am able to see the difference. Now let's change it, and only just information will change. Now let's say that I'm just wanted to remove this. So if I click on this, I am able to remove the information. So this is the basic thing that we can do. Like let's say that if I want to remove this one, I will be able to remove this. So now here in this component we will add save contact button. So we will add the save contact button on the, either we can add here on the parent itself, because in the parent component we also have all the list of all the contacts, but here in the parent component we don't have list of, we have list of how many list of contacts we do have. We can check. let's go back and we'll see if you are if that particular method remove method is removing the things from the parent itself or only child itself. We can see there is 4. If we remove, we are able to see 3. So why it is happening? Because we are removing the things from the child, we are not removing the things from the parent. So now if you remember, we learned about the value provider, that was exclamation marks and hashtag. That was working. Hashtag is, that is unbound expression. That means if you are making any changes on the child attribute, it will not reflect on the parent attribute. But if you are using bound expression, that is exclamation mark, if you are making any changes on the parent attribute, that is responsible for making the changes. Sorry, if you are making changes on the child attribute, that is responsible for making the changes on the parent attribute. So but in case of list, if you are passing the objects, we are not able to. Let's make it as contact list and put it as hashtag here itself, and from the event it will be contact, and then here also make it as contact. Now let's see if you are able to do. Otherwise we will use V, and then we can use the button on either of the component. Either it will be okay. So we are not able to see that, so let's make the changes whatever it was earlier. So now either we can add the button here itself, or we can add the button on the child component itself. So what we'll do, we'll add the button here, lightning colon button. We'll use a division tag, and here save contacts, and then on click we'll just call a method that will be do, or we can just say that handle save. Go to the controller, create a method handle save. So now what this handle save will do, this will call a abyss class method that we are going to create now. Abyss class that will be create contacts aura services, aura service. Why we are adding this aura service? So that we can identify that this particular class is being on as a controller of any particular component. So here this is the component controller, save it. So now here in the abyss class we need to add a method that will be aura enabled, and it will be static. We are not returning anything. We will create contacts, and it will be list of list of contact and contact list, because we will be sending the contact from the Java, and then we will be inserting this contact list. That's it. Okay, why we are getting the error? Okay, aura enabled. So now let's go back to the JavaScript. Do perform the things first that we need to use, that is component.get c as an action provider, and then the name of the method. Then the other thing is that we need to set the parameters that we need to send, and then next thing is action.set callback to get the response from the server, that is this, and takes a callback function and then we can just $a dot enqueue action, and then it's action. So here in the parameters we just need to use the name of the variable that we are using, and remember that the variable name will always be same as the name of the variable that we are using on the Apex class method. Contact list, and here we will check for state. Sorry, here from the response we will get the state. Response dot get state, and here we can also provide the optional parameter, that is all, or the state name of the state. So now we'll check, if state equal to success, or state equal to draft, then it's success. Otherwise we need to check for the error, for the incomplete, so here we'll check incomplete, error, or any other state. Incomplete, error. On line number 21. Okay, because of this semicolon. Okay, so now if we are successfully able to create the contact, what we are going to do, we are just going to refresh this particular page so that we can see the related contact here that we have added. So for this we have an action, like we have an inbuilt event that we can say that is refresh view. What it does refresh the particular component where the component exists, where the component is existing. So we are just going to use the same. So we are going to use the same utility class $a.get, then e.force refresh view for refreshing the particular view. So now let's go ahead here, and we will be adding, we'll try to add 2 contacts at once. First we'll add 3 contacts, but we'll remove one, and then we'll try to add 2 contacts. Okay, try this, and then we will see. Name it as Anuj Singh, Salesforce developer, and then we'll remove this. Now click on save contacts. Okay, we are able to save the contact successfully. No, I'm not sure either. We are okay. Let's refresh this and see if we are able to see 2 more contacts, that is total number of 4. Okay, so we are getting some error, so let's go back here, put alert state, and inside error get error, and then we will be consoling this, console.log, that is errors, json dot, no, just like this. Okay, so let's go back, refresh this. Remove this, click on save contact. We're getting success. Okay, so the contacts are all being created, where the problem is that we are not associating those contacts with the related account. You can see. So what we need to do, first we need to go to the contact here. Before getting the contact, what we need to do, component.set, we need to set the account ID. So v.contact.account ID, and that will be component.get v.record ID. So now we will be able to do. So let's go to the controller where we are putting the alert message for the state. Remove this, refresh this. Okay, add to review, click on save contact. We are not able to see any contact here still. But we are able to see those contacts here as well. Okay, so still we are not able to link the contacts. So let's go back to the controller itself. We are using v.contact_record.account ID, and then v.record ID. We are using the interface as well. Okay, so let's do one thing. Instead of using there, we are going to use one more parameter, that will be account ID. We will be sending this to the server v.record ID, and then open the class that is create contacts or a service, string this, and then iterate through this link. Again, let's do this. I believe we are getting some error. Yep, here we are getting error. Why we are getting error? Page error is email address is in invalid format. You can remove this, save contact. Now you can see we are able to see 3 contacts here, the one that we created here. So now as we face the error that was invalid email address, so to remove this error, like we need to remove, had to remove the particular contact from here to save the updated contact. So what we need to do, we'll also provide a new button here that will do that edit, and then once we'll click on edit, it will reflect this. It will change the information, whatever the information we have here, and the input fields will change accordingly. So let's go back, and here on the contact review, let's add a new button that will say name as edit, and here edit record. So now what we did, we just get the index of whatever the particular contact has been clicked on edit button. Then we get all the contacts that we do have on the add review section, and then we get whatever the record, whatever the values are for that particular, like we always use list and then the index for which index we wanted to fetch the record. The same concept we applied here, that will be list and the index. For example, let's say that the index was 0, it will take this contact and then it will store on this variable, and then we are just debugging here on the console.log. So now next what we need to do, as this is the child component, and we have to send this value to the parent to the component that is create contact component, and these components are not related with each other. So what we are going to do, we will just create another event. We will create another event that will be named as select records, and then we will use the concept of event propagation that we learned on the earlier session. So first we will register the event here on the contact review component, and then in the contact review we will execute the event. We will fire the event whenever someone is clicking on edit record, and then first thing what we'll do, we'll handle that event over here on the parent component, and then we will be using the capture phase, and then after that we will be handling that component over here on this child component, that particular event over here on the child component, so that we can send that data to the child component. And then in the child component, after handling the event, what we will do, we will set that particular contact record values on with this attribute, and then the values will be automatically changed. So we will make all these changes on the next session, so that we can work on this. So see you guys on the next session. Thank you for watching the video.